For those of you who don't know, on October 23rd, 2024, I broke my ankle working on a trick. That's the crazy thing about air steps. You go up and then you come down again. And when you come down, you gotta do it good. And I had pretty unrealistic expectations of when I would get back in the game, how recovery would go. So here's my story. And now my broken leg is not your broken leg. My recovery is not necessarily going to be your recovery. You should definitely seek medical advice from a professional, which I am not. But this is what I did, what I went through, how my basic recovery went. Also, I'm going to show pictures of my feet, so if you don't like that, you shouldn't watch that. And if you do like that, just be cool about it. So this is my least significant injury. If you've known me for a long time, you know I had an emergency C-section when I had my son, and that's not technically an injury, but it was a lot to recover from. And then about 10 years ago, I had this chronic dislocation issue where my right shoulder would dislocate all the time. It dislocated 10 times. And then I finally decided to have surgery. The surgery was successful. It was laparoscopic. I have my little scars right here. But that was a very painful recovery, and I had to relearn how to lift my arm, the whole 9 yards. So comparatively, the break was chill. First, the day of the break. If you're squeamish, skip ahead. My partner and I were working on a rainbow. We didn't have a spotter, but I had landed it before, so we figured, what's the worst that could happen? And so we throw it, I landed badly. I did hear a snap, which I was hoping was a twig, and I knew instantly practice was over. It was a very, very sharp pain, very clear. I could not put any weight on it immediately. I was trying to limp, I was trying to hop, but even hopping hurt from jiggling the foot. It was a very specific pain. Also, my foot swelled up like a balloon, obviously. Now at this point, I still don't think it's broken. I seriously doubt that it's broken, but I have a gig that I need to leave for the very next day. And so I go home, I ice, I elevate, I do all the stuff, but in 3 hours, the foot's exactly the same. So the trajectory looks bad, I cancel my gig. The next day, my foot is again exactly the same. So I figure maybe I should be safe. I'll go to the doctor for an x-ray to see if it's broken. Confirmed, the foot is broken. It's a non-displaced fibula fracture, which is totally not that bad a break. The fibula is not a weight-bearing bone, that's the tibia. It's non-displaced, though it is a spiral fracture, which means more surface area, so therefore it's more to heal. But honestly, not that bad. So I cancel all of my gigs through Lindy Focus, but I keep Lindy Focus because totally I'll be better in 2 months. So I'm not even gonna worry about it. Sidebar, for the organizers I canceled on, thank you so much for being so understanding. I mean, I know you didn't really have a choice because I did have a broken leg after all, but I know it is so financially risky to be an organizer. A lot of these people put a lot of their money, their own money, on the line just to put on some event for their community, and a teacher dropping out even 2 months out is a really, really big deal. So thank you again so much for being understanding. I appreciate you. So I got an ortho who ordered more x-rays to make sure that there wasn't any soft tissue damage. Now, if you don't know anything about this process, x-rays only show you bones. They don't show you ligaments or tendons or muscles or any of that stuff. However, when you look at the joint at a certain angle, the implication is that the soft tissue is intact based on the fibula's proximity to the surrounding bones. So, no surgery recommended. I'm totally gonna be better by Lindy Focus. Also fantastic because bones recover quickly because they're very vascular. There's all this blood going through the bone, delivering nutrients. And if you have something like cartilage or a ligament, they recover very slowly because blood only flows beside those things. They only get nutrients through osmosis. So again, very grateful for the broken leg. Now, years before, my husband broke his fibula in a hockey accident, and we still have the boot from that incident. I wore that. Perfect. I had 2 weeks non-weight bearing, meaning absolutely no weight on your foot at all, meaning crutches. And that was obviously the most tedious part. Things like stairs are really complicated, and if you don't know, there are a lot of stairs in New York City. I've got a really hyperactive son, so playing with him was difficult and possibly stressful because maybe he was gonna body slam me because he loves physical activity. Where'd he get that from? When you're used to using your arms, you don't realize how much you use your arms. So you can't move something like a drink from one room to the other. You have to be able to put everything in a backpack just to move through your house. So there's a lot of scooting on your butt and things like that. But my friend Samantha has a lot of foot accessories. So she lent me a knee scooter and a peg leg. And y'all, the peg leg was amazing. I could cook. I could do almost totally normal things. Grr, rawr, arr. 2 weeks out, I went back to my ortho to get some update x-rays, and to me, it looks still totally broken. Like 100% like broken.
Broken, or just broken?
But my ortho says that as the bone is healing, it creates something called a callus, which isn't calcified, so it doesn't show up on an x-ray, but it has this kind of cloudy quality. So that means that I was progressing as normal, no more crutches, overjoyed. I start PT. I start PT 3 weeks out, and they clear me to walk inside the house without the boot, which is amazing for like the midnight bathroom break. Look at this stride. Which one's broken? Who knows? I'm so on track. Early PT is a lot of range of motion, a lot of stretching. I get my point back extension pretty quick. I have a totally decent point. Even though it's not a value in our dance at all, life's not fair. Flexion took a lot longer to come back. Lots of calf raises, painful calf raises, lots of isometric pressure and holds, lots of icing, super boring basic stuff. You gotta do it. You just gotta do it. 6 weeks out, I have another ortho appointment and more x-rays, and it still looks totally broken, but the doc says I am on track. I show my range of motion. She's super impressed with my point. Sidebar, there are so many dancers in New York, so like any doctor or physical therapist is so used to working with dancers, but all of the dancers are ballet or contemporary, so they have no idea what the demands of Lindy Hop are, but why would they? I just thought it was funny. But hence why they would think point and releve are significant. I did a calf raise and it was painful and halting, but I got all the way to the top and it looked good. I start to ask about Lindy Hop adjacent things because since the doc doesn't know what Lindy Hop needs, I need to kind of describe it. I ask about tiny, repeated, rapid hops. And she says, jogging should be fine. Perfect. Jogging is fine. That's basically Lindy Hop. So I jog all around my house all evening long. The next day I go to PT and they say, don't jog. It's way too intense. That night I went to my first dance and it was so much worse than I expected it to be. Now I've been walking pretty normally for 3 weeks, but I only led 2 songs with people I super duper trusted and I did a shim sham. And it felt horrible and unstable the whole time. 7 weeks out, I did a tap for Lindy Hop trade with a really talented tap dancer here in New York. And I could hobble through some beginner follow things, but I could not do tap dance stuff. I remember flaps, like the looseness and then suddenly catching my weight on that ankle was super painful. I'm sure my teacher felt very limited. 8 weeks out, second dance, and it was much better. I danced a lot, like not every song, but a lot. And I looked pretty normal because I know how to make choices that avoid the injured leg. I found leading to be much easier than following because when I lead, I'm in control. When I follow, depending on the leader, if they make a last minute decision, I have to really core up and put pressure through my legs to accommodate the decision. And that was painful and felt unstable. A little over 9 weeks back, this sounds crazy, but it's my first gig. It's Lindy Focus. And Lindy Focus was a good first gig back, honestly. It's long. It's like 4 days long, but the days aren't very intense. My normal days were teaching 2 hours. My heavy day was teaching 4 hours. Partnered classes were pretty good, especially if they were lower and mid-tempo. The solo classes were strenuous. I couldn't really hop on my right leg, which is, if you know my dancing, a lot of how I solo dance, especially at any kind of tempo. And so I told class that my left leg was my demo leg and my right leg was my imagination leg. And everybody was very generous. Thank you guys so much for being so understanding. The dances at night are extracurricular, and so I tried to be really careful. The first night, I didn't do late night at all. I only danced with people I super duper trusted. By the third night, I was feeling pretty good, so I decided to dance with somebody that I know really well, but isn't as advanced. And I hate this so much, but it was a mistake. It was a pretty forceful dance, and it didn't feel good. Now, of course, the issue, he knew I had a broken leg, but I've been dancing with all of these people that I know, and I've even been doing fast songs, and I look totally normal. And I also didn't want to make things uncomfortable by telling him that it hurt. Classic. I took a long break afterwards. I iced my ankle. The difficulty is that I love how inclusive our Lindy Hop community is. That's very important to me. But this is just my PSA to say, just because somebody looks normal doesn't mean that they feel normal. And if you ask somebody to dance and they turn you down, maybe they're a meanie but stupid head. Maybe they are. But maybe they just need to dance with somebody they trust because of an injury. I love you anyway, even if we can't dance. For all the people that I turned down and were so understanding, thank you for being so understanding. I did a performance for Lindy Focus, The Queen Swings Basie, so here's an example of what I was dancing like. It was the last night, so my ankle was more sore. Brian Soto wrapped it for me. Thank you so much, Brian. You can see I'm looking pretty normal. In my opinion, you can really notice the difference during hand-to-hand. Look at my left leg bouncing along, and then look at my right leg. You can see I'm having a really hard time hopping and keeping my heel elevated. 10 weeks out, second gig back. More intense weekend, 4.5 hours of teaching a day, a lot of solo classes. I didn't do any social dancing at all because it was at a venue with a marble floor. I did one performance on that floor, basically the same routine as Lindy Focus, but with some formations. You can see my hand-to-hand is improved. The right leg has a little more spring in it. I remember my leg hurt more than usual the day after a travel day. And I felt like it knew that I was in a different time zone, like an old person's knee knows that it's about to rain. I feel like most of the time when I'm healthy, I'm terrible at listening to my body. I tell it what to do and it does it because it needs to be done. And now I'm in a position where I couldn't just force my body to do stuff. I had to listen a little bit more. And I felt like my body was saying, I hate traveling. Traveling is really hard for us to do right now. And it was interesting to have the space and have the excuse, the reason to listen to it. I'm not doing that anymore, but it was interesting. I started my jump tests. The jump tests were not from physical therapy. I made up the format myself. You can see in this one, the camera fell down because I can't control my heel hitting the floor. Still happy with the progress. A little over 12 weeks, 3 months out, third gig back, very intense gig. All solo dancing, some performances, lots of walking between venues. Classes went well. I danced with everybody at night, but I didn't close it down. I went home early. I tried to get lots of sleep. I remember I complained to one of the other teachers that my ankle hurt all the time. And not hurt all the time because of that event, but just since I had broken it, hurt a little bit constantly. Felt a little bit unstable and I couldn't trust it constantly. And I was beginning to get so frustrated at my inability to participate in the dance the way I wanted to, and frustrated with how slow it felt like my progress was going. And I know that sounds super laughable because it had been 3 months. And by everybody else's standards, I was healing very swiftly. And in retrospect, I was healing very swiftly. But when you're in the middle of it, you just don't know if you're ever going to get back. And I was frustrated. Also, my unrealistic expectations at the beginning of this did not help. When I got back at my next ortho appointment, I remember I talked to her about how frustrated I was, and she suggested that I measure my calves because her suspicion was that I had lost a lot of strength in my right leg, and that's why I wasn't able to control it and to be as buoyant as I wanted to be. And so I did. I measured my right leg, and my right calf was still, at that point, bigger than my left calf. So I don't think that was it. I don't know what it was. Stuff happens. Time passes, gigs happen, physical therapy happens, not much to report.
Ooh, best so far. This is pretty good.
Check out the difference between my right leg and my left leg. In my opinion, even my left leg is a little bit soggy right now because I just haven't been dancing very hard. "17 weeks out, I go rock climbing at a gym." Now, I haven't gone rock climbing since we moved to New York in 2022, so I'm not expecting to be good. But I also wasn't expecting to be so bad. Climbing requires so much pressure to be put through your ankle, and it felt so painful and so unstable. I couldn't try anything remotely difficult. I was so frustrated. I did cry.
70? Yeah. Second, okay. For the same thing?
18 weeks, the Prumo family ski trip, and you guys, the Prumos are so into skiing. Like, imagine how into it they are and make it more into it. At our wedding, Brooks's brother was best man, and in his speech, he talked about skiing. They're so into it. And the only reason why I mentioned this is it was so helpful. The boot is incredibly inflexible, but you're having to twist and turn to keep yourself alive as you control your fall down the side of this mountain. So I had 3 days of intense isometric exercise for hours, and I came off of that trip feeling much stronger. Around 20 weeks, 5 months out is Lindy Fest, and this is the first gig where I'm feeling good. I'm feeling more back than ever. Classes are fine. Social dancing at night, social dancing late, all of that is fine. I feel like I'm able to do Charleston and control the drop of my heel instead of it just immediately dropping. That's almost the same. About 6 months out, I feel like I kind of hit 100% again. I don't think about my leg anymore. I feel totally normal. I'm dancing at my pre-break intensity. I'm doing air steps again. I'm rock climbing, and the only thing holding me back now are muscles and technique. There's actually one thing that hasn't totally recovered, and that is my flexibility. My left side is as flexible as it ever was, and my right side is really limited, like at the hamstring. Why? The break was all the way down at the ankle. But bodies are weird. You got to do all kinds of things to compensate for an injury. I'll add it to the list. I'll work on it. Not medical advice, but I think one of the things that really helped me was I tried to push myself every day. I didn't just want to do the physical therapy. I wanted to do as much as I felt like my ankle could handle. And I tried to be responsible. I tried to listen to it. I went to bed early if I felt like it. I was very, very aware of any kind of sharp pain, but I tried to push it and hurt it a little bit every day. Not medical advice. So if you're going through some kind of injury, it sucks. It's long when you're in the middle of it. If you have a broken leg and you're in a super, super bouncy sport, hopefully this gives you some kind of timeline of what to expect if you have a minor break like mine was. And if you're just frustrated that you don't have the responsiveness and you can't trust your body the way you normally do, I understand, and it feels terrible. And my only advice besides seeking a medical professional is just keep working.